Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
It's game time already! Welcome everyone back to Animat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How have you all been doing? Man, I've been pretty good so far, but whew, what a week we have been through, am I right, folks? I mean, we just went through our holidays, whether it be stuff like Canada Day or Independence Day and all that kind of stuff. But still, other than that, there have been a lot of things that did occur this week that it was quite a mouthful, and honestly, to this day, some of it can be pretty hard to swallow. There have been a lot of celebrity deaths that did occur, unfortunately. A lot of notable deaths, even. I even see in the chat wall right now, some people even mention Felice Sampler has passed away, and even as I'm recording this, there's one that just immediately passed away, apparently. Richard Donner, the director of the Lethal Weapon movies, has unfortunately passed away as well. And even the unfortunate injustice that did occur last week where Bill Cosby, despite the fact that he admitted to the crimes that he had committed, he will be released from prison. So from there, it is still a very difficult time. It is still a pretty rough week that we went through. But fortunately, though, we are starting a brand new week. We could start off fresh, and hopefully some of the injustices will be justiced. I don't know. Can justice be a verb? I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, we still got a whole lot of interesting news that we shall go and talk about for this week. A lot of fascinating things to go and report, and even some interesting discussions that hopefully you guys will be more than happy to come in and join me on too. Well, I mean, if you guys are here, then maybe you are ready to have those discussions. So, with that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of Animat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Are you ready, folks? Let me hear it. Let's see now. Okay, I see some prepared. Yes, all right, perfect. I see people are all set, and I think with all that said and done, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that we have here today, this is actually something interesting that I found on social media, and something that the cartoon community started to talk about recently because of a recent discovery. It was an old tweet from last year that people have uncovered, and technically there aren't any articles to go and report, but then again, it makes it all the more exciting to go and have a little bit of a coverage here in this podcast. So, you might be wondering, what am I talking about though? Because, let's be honest, on social media, people would go and talk about a lot of things. Well, in this case, it is actually regarding an old lost animated feature, a fascinating concept that people are very much intrigued about to this day, in fact, but unfortunately will never see the light of day. And what I am talking about, of course, is regarding Me and My Shadow. You guys might remember back in the early 2010s, early last decade, when DreamWorks Animation thought up of an idea of an animated feature that they wanted to do called Me and My Shadow. And the key figure, the key aspect of this movie is actually regarding its animation technique, where yes, it would be more of your typical computer animated feature, but there would also be some hand-drawn elements as well, which would be represented by the shadows. And you would see this entire world where within our human average world, there is also a shadow world as well. And there would be this main character played by Josh Gad, who would go and team up with his own shadow, played by Bill Hader, and go on this wild, crazy adventure that would involve romance and discovering the shadow world and all that kind of stuff. Ever since it was announced, it really captured the imagination of audiences, especially with the fact that there would be elements of hand-drawn animated features. And as you guys probably know, the cartoon community to this day is still desperate for mainstream animation studios to go and produce more hand-drawn animated films or include components of hand-drawn animation. And from what they have brought up over here, it sounded a bit like they would really play up the concept that was shown in Moana, where, with Maui as a full-on CG character who would be interacting with this hand-drawn little character in the form of Maui's tattoos that's all around his body and would be interacting with the CG world. Now, ever since then, a lot of people have wondered whatever happened to that project. Why is it that Me and My Shadow, despite the fact that it has a lot of attention from the animation community, ended up getting scrapped? Well, apparently this tweet right over here from Alan Silveriad2 has resurfaced an old tweet from April 24, 2020 by longtime animator Matt Williams, who actually did work heavily on the project and actually did provide some of the hand-drawn animation of the Bill Hader Shadow. And on this tweet, Matt actually did give us a clue of what could have possibly been the reason why this project might have been canceled. And the reason? 2 words: Jeffrey Katzenberg. Now, let's just go all the way back to 2012, when Me and My Shadow was still in production, and you could debatably say that DreamWorks Animation was at its peak. It was back when DreamWorks was really the definitive rival of Disney when it comes to animation, and they were providing hit after hit after hit. They just finished off the Shrek franchise, which already accumulated like billions of dollars at the box office. And then following afterwards, they started off the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. They just released the first movie. Kung Fu Panda was still prominently strong with the first 2 films. And they also, I wouldn't say they concluded the Madagascar franchise, but they did release the final film of the main lineup of Madagascar films, Europe's Most Wanted. So it really was DreamWorks at their prime during that era right over there. It was just before they started to have box office bombs after box office bombs. But then, during the production, when they were working on Me and My Shadow, Matt Williams stated on this tweet, and I quote, this one in particular was 2012, pointing to a response, basically responding to a fan who was just praising one of the animation tests of The Shadow, and he continued on by saying, "We had a screening with Jeffrey where he fell asleep. He had just flown back from China, and I would have been asleep too, but we knew he wasn't into it. He told us it wasn't a $200 million movie, and that is what he needed." So basically from there, a lot of people have speculated that because of Jeffrey Katzenberg's opinion, this entire movie, Me and My Shadow, got completely canceled because Jeffrey Katzenberg didn't feel like it would have been a major hit. And that's essentially the story. From there, social media pretty much came up with their own conclusion that Me and My Shadow was canceled because of Jeffrey Katzenberg. Now, I would like to go and state this right now. You guys probably have remembered a while back, like a few years ago, I actually did do a video based on Me and My Shadow, where I did chronicle the history of Me and My Shadow and what went into the production and what ultimately happened and what could have possibly killed off the project. And when I saw this on social media, it started to really go and circulate around, it did actually get me a little bit curious to know what did happen. What is it? Is this actually true? Because for now, when I first saw this, I immediately considered this a rumor. It's something I found on social media, and it was something that, it just popped up on Twitter. I won't immediately jump into conclusions, so I went back into my notes on Me and My Shadow to double check if there would actually be some truth. Would it be the case that Jeffrey Katzenberg did actually legitimately cancel Me and My Shadow? And from the research that I've done and from what I looked into back in my notes and stuff like that, I feel like, honestly, I could actually take this and apply that onto the history. I think, honestly, this would legitimately make sense because the true reason as to why it got canceled never legitimately got confirmed. At the most that I could find back into my notes was because Jeffrey Katzenberg and the people at DreamWorks, they actually did have a bit more of a preference before and wanted to do more of that instead of Me and My Shadow, which in this case was actually the Mr. Peabody and Sherman movie, which did ultimately get a release in 2014. And there was a period in 2012 when they would continuously shift the release dates of both Me and My Shadow and Mr. Peabody and Sherman. But then suddenly, I think it was somewhere at the start of 2013, I believe, where you could say it was a bit of the final nail in the coffin, or the first immediate sign that Me and My Shadow was never going to happen, when they decided to move Mr. Peabody and Sherman onto the release date that Me and My Shadow had on March of 2014, and Me and My Shadow was just completely gone. And from there, well, of course, continuing the history of DreamWorks, things really did not go well, where the studio had bomb after bomb after bomb, and then they had to really downsize the company, and then following afterwards, they got bought off by Comcast. So the DreamWorks animation of 2012 is certainly completely different to the DreamWorks animation that we have now, and they just went through massive changes. And debatably, the most that you could say back then was that Me and My Shadow was just being built at the wrong time, during like one of the worst periods of DreamWorks Animation's history, where things just really did not go well for the company, and they had to completely change things up to the point of being completely bought off by this massive corporate conglomerate like Comcast. And from there, if it would be true that Jeffrey Katzenberg just didn't necessarily feel like it, and he didn't really want to actually work on the project, honestly, I do find that legitimately believable, because it actually does fit within the timeline, because from there, that is a major sign where you could say that, it's a first immediate sign that shows that Me and My Shadow was not as much of a priority as some of the other movies they were making at the time, like Mr. Peabody and Sherman, which is why they often get shafted. But not only that, but one thing I will say, however, is that Jeffrey Katzenberg canceling an entire project, even if they were committed to working on it, even if a lot of work was already done and even planned out a release date for it, honestly, yeah, it does sound believable, because Jeffrey Katzenberg does have a legitimate history of making these bad creative decisions that ultimately just sounded like a really bad idea, and luckily there were some that didn't actually make it. I mean, you gotta keep in mind, this is Jeffrey Katzenberg that we were talking about. This is the same guy who almost took away part of your world from The Little Mermaid. But what actually did save it were a lot of adamant creative people at Disney, especially people like Ron Clements, John Musker, Howard Ashman, and especially Glenn Keane, who stepped in and had to convince Jeffrey to say, nah, that thing has to stay. The song needs to stay no matter what. And ever since then, well, Part of Your World is now one of the most iconic Disney songs, let alone one of the most iconic Little Mermaid songs. So yeah, like, it is possible to imagine that Jeffrey Katzenberg would definitely do something like completely cancel a project such as Me and My Shadow. And you gotta keep in mind, back then, Jeffrey Katzenberg was the big head of DreamWorks Animation. This is the guy who founded DreamWorks, and he was the man in charge. So really, there was no one that would be able to stop him from making any of these massive business decisions, rather it be full-on canceling a project like this. So honestly, I won't say that this is a definitive conclusion that this is confirmed that Jeffrey Katzenberg canceled it, but I feel like it is highly likely to do so. And also, one thing that I would say is actually true regarding this is the fact that, unfortunately, with the way that a lot of people were very much upset of the fact that they heard this news, that they got upset of the fact that one man is capable of canceling an entire project because of his little opinion and stuff like that. Unfortunately, this is very common in the industry. Even if you don't hear it as much, and yeah, it is pretty rare that you would see a project that was scheduled and had a lot of work done already would end up ultimately being shafted and stuff like that. It happens so many times where a lot of projects end up getting canceled because the executives weren't really that big of a fan about it. You know, they didn't really like it. And it's not just a DreamWorks Animation thing with Jeffrey Katzenberg, and it's not just an animation thing. It's an entire entertainment thing. Movies, television shows, streaming service projects, even Broadway shows all end up getting shafted because an executive didn't think that it was that much of a good idea. And they have to make these massive decisions because making something like an animated movie, that's a massive commitment. That's taking so much of its own resource in order to create a project. Not to mention like the millions of dollars that they have to go and invest, the years of dedication that they had to go and work on it, and not to mention the hundreds of people that have to go and work on that particular project alone. So canceling a project or approving a project, those are some major decisions and really not easy decisions to begin with. So that's, excuse me, it's just need to calibrate with my stomach. There we go. But all this to say that, like, if an executive would have to say yes, you would have to really go and convince them, like really convince them hard. So yes, these executives like Jeffrey Katzenberg and like at whichever company, yeah, their opinion matters debatably more than anyone else, even more so than the masses. And we've heard this story from time to time to time, like not just me and my shadow that went through the same thing. Another really good example that I can think of that you guys might probably remember is Genndy Tartakovsky's Popeye, where immediately after the first Hotel Transylvania, Genndy Tartakovsky wanted to make a Popeye movie. And Sony Animation was on board with it. You know, they were giving it a release date. They gave Genndy Tartakovsky a crew to actually try it out. And then by the end of 2014, like just before the Sony hack, Sony Animation decided to release the animation test that they provided onto YouTube and show it off to the public. And you probably recall, if you remember back at the end of 2014, that it did get a lot of attention. It did get a lot of, viral praise, a lot of attention, and a lot of people really dug into the style that Genndy Tartakovsky was trying to get into. But then, a few months later, Genndy Tartakovsky revealed that the whole project was canceled. It was pretty much dead. And why is it, you may ask? Well, it was simply because executives at Sony did not like it. It was just simple as that. That Genndy Tartakovsky got a call from one of the executives, to check in their office, and they were saying like, listen, Genndy, we love you, man, but honestly, we just don't like Popeye. And from there, the project was just axed off. And I know some people could debate that technically the project is not fully dead because Genndy is currently collaborating with King Features in order to make a new Popeye project. But then again, that animation test that we saw before, we know that's never going to happen. Like Sony, like that vision of Popeye from Genndy Tartakovsky and Sony Pictures Animation, it is never going to happen, and it's pretty much dead no matter what. And all simply because a bunch of executives just simply didn't like it. That's it. That's all. And and sometimes a lot of projects can be canceled just because of that, because some powerful people just did not like it. And that's it. And it shows a pretty harsh reality about the entertainment industry that sometimes your projects can simply be canceled and just be destroyed just like that. even if you might have like this very creative idea or this revolutionary technique of what you want to do with your animation or with your style or whatever, if you're incapable of convincing the most important people that you want to go and make it and that it is worth giving out all that resource, then honestly, if you're not able to do that, then your vision ain't gonna happen no matter what. And sometimes it could be taken away from you, like even during the middle of it. Like, and sometimes even outside sources could go and take away your dream project no matter what, even if you would be close to finishing. Like, case in point, look at Nimona. Like, that was supposed to be one of the upcoming Blue Sky animated features, and they were about like, they were almost complete. They needed just like almost a year to finish it off, like probably 10 months. But then suddenly, Blue Sky Studios shut down, and the project, well, it's pretty much gone. No longer exists anymore. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but it highlights a dark truth about the industry, and that is something that like, if you actually do want to work in this kind of industry, if you want to work on an animated feature, if you want to work as a director, as a filmmaker and stuff like that, you have to be prepared for those types of worst case scenarios where even some of the brightest ideas and even like your passion projects and your dreams can simply be crushed, all because you weren't able to go and convince an executive that this is a good idea, really worth investing. And by this point, also, I just want to add, by the way, just like on a quick side note, because it's actually kind of interesting to see like a lot of people being very much upset at Jeffrey Katzenberg regarding this entire situation, where a lot of people right now you go on social media and amongst the cartoon community, they are pissed off at Jeffrey Katzenberg and like they're just attacking him nonstop because of this. And funny enough, coincidentally, there's also another reason why people are actually mad at Jeffrey Katzenberg, because there's on a side note, there's also some recent news where Jeffrey actually gained some newfound interest regarding the homeless situation in the Los Angeles area, about the fact that there is a growing number of homeless people that are scattering around the streets and around the area of Los Angeles. And from there, Jeffrey Katzenberg has this new idea and is really pushing forward with the major politicians of the Los Angeles area regarding to minimize the amount of camping grounds that people would be allowed to do. I got my source here from the Los Angeles Times, and just to go and quickly read this up, just to read you like a couple of paragraphs, it says here, several of Katzenberg's meetings have taken place during the run-up of the council's recent decision to impose new anti-camping rules, which would allow the city to remove encampments that are near key public facilities, such as libraries and homeless shelters, once offers of housing has been made. During at least one meeting, Katzenberg suggests that the city not tackle every location at once, but rather focus on regulating the sidewalks that surround schools and parks, areas where children are present, said Councilman Paul Koretz, who met with the film producer Friday at his City Hall office. But then it gets crazier when it says here, in some meetings, Katzenberg urged council members to act quickly on enacting limits on where people can sleep, according to two sources with knowledge on those conversations. He wanted to be helpful on homelessness, and then it quickly turned to tents down, says one elected official who met with Katzenberg and asked to remain anonymous in order to speak candidly about a private conversation. So the big picture that a lot of people took from the recent news about Jeffrey Katzenberg's involvement with the politics of homelessness is that it seems like he's one of those rich people that would focus a lot more on trying to limit the amount of homeless people that the public would go and see, rather than to actually help out the homeless people. So it's more like, in a way you could say that Jeffrey Katzenberg is kind of like, he's more motivated to get rid of the homeless people than to actually help get rid of the homeless problem by helping the people. And that's why right now Jeffrey Katzenberg is really getting some serious backlash, rather it be on the subject of homelessness or even regarding the subject of Me and My Shadow. So it is kind of funny to see Jeffrey Katzenberg be back in the news and people bringing him back up, but really in a negative light where a lot of people are not really that much of a major fan of Jeffrey Katzenberg. And I mean, like, even when you see him in interviews and you hear the stories about Jeffrey Katzenberg, he really does seem like the perfect stereotype of what a Hollywood producer is. Like the slimy, con artist-like Hollywood producer constantly making bad decisions and would mainly be responsible for ruining your dreams and stuff like that. And one more thing that I would like to mention, by the way, one more thing to say is that I know that there are a lot of people out there that are hopeful that maybe one day Me and My Shadow could just magically come back, that there would magically be some kind of way that they would revive Me and My Shadow and it would be back and it would be the same thing as like people dreamed it would be and stuff like that. I just want to say right now, folks, I think it's time that you need to move on. Like, seriously, I think it's time that you need to go and accept the fact that this Me and My Shadow that we have seen with all the animation tests, and like as great of an idea as it is and as like amazing as those animation tests are, this Me and My Shadow is never going to happen. Like, it's been about, like, if it is true, like, if everything about this is fact, that it was technically in 2012 where Jeffrey Katzenberg kind of pulled the plug on Me and My Shadow, that was nearly a decade ago, and DreamWorks Animation has entirely changed since then. So this is not really the kind of project that could just be magically be brought back just because of the hopes that maybe you could get a little taste of hand-drawn animation made by mainstream animation studios. I think it's time you need to learn to accept that it's never going to come back and you need to move on. And even if DreamWorks Animation would make another Shadow type movie, it won't be like this. It's not going to be the same thing. It's not like they're going to magically bring back Josh Gad and Bill Hader and Kate Hudson to provide their voices for that same story and stuff like that. It would be something entirely different, and even the animation technique would be different. So one thing I just want to say is that if you think that somehow they're going to bring back this project, it's not going to die or anything like that, honestly, those chances are extremely slim. And you got to move on, folks. I think it's time you need to, like, stop thinking this is going to come back. You need to let go of the past and you need to move on. I just need to go and put out that message because I know, like, I even see, like, if you look on the side, like, even on the side on, like there's, like, some people honestly saying, like, oh, they need to restart production. Oh, maybe Netflix can come in and pick it up. Oh, can they go and bring back Me and My Shadow? It's like, you know, like a lot of people that are desperate to bring this back, but it's like, guys, there's like a 99.99 chance it's never going to happen. So by this point, just move on, folks. Seriously. All right, so I think with that said and done, it is now time that we shall go and move on to the chat wall. And I would like to ask you all, how do you all feel about the recent news regarding Jeffrey Katzenberg and the possibility that he was the one that canceled Me and My Shadow? Are you guys upset with the whole situation? Do you accept that maybe this is just how it is in the industry? Let me know what you all think. Okay. By the way, I just need to go and quickly do one more quick little thing just to make sure I can get everything correct. All right. Anyways, let's just go back over here. Why would Jeffrey Katzenberg think that Me and My Shadow would not be a $200 million, quoting the lines of Vitali from Madagascar 3, that is Bolshevik. I felt bad for the movie because I remember watching your history on it and it sounds very interesting. Me and My Shadow would have marked the huge return of 2D animation. I can imagine the alternate universe that the movie would be real, but in all seriousness, for now, it looks like we never see Me and My Shadow. It could have been best. It could have been for the best. You know, honestly, I will say, like, one thing that I can't really confirm and one thing that I can't really say, honestly, is regarding the idea if, when it comes to Me and My Shadow, that if it would be a $200 million movie. I mean, as much as the animation community is really fascinated with the idea of like, oh, this would be part computer, part hand-drawn animated and stuff like that, just because it would bring back 2D animation, that doesn't necessarily mean that it would be a massive box office hit. I mean, so, like, take a look at The Princess and the Frog. Technically, like, like, a lot of people thought that would be the grand return of 2D animation, and that didn't really do well at the box office. It wasn't until, like, a little bit later on, like, after its theatrical run, that it did become, like, a Disney classic, and it is, like, among, like, some of the big Disney films, but still, though, like, like, just be, like, yeah, maybe you would be interested in it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it would immediately go and make a lot of money. Like, there are some great ideas that do end up becoming box office bombs. Like, I still consider Kubo and the Two Strings one of the greatest stop-motion films of all time, and that barely got any form of attention at the box office. So that's one thing that I don't know if I could really deny with Jeffrey Katzenberg's opinion, is if would it be a box office bomb? Would it not be a $200 million movie? Maybe he would be right, maybe not. But ultimately, it's his opinion and his choice, and he is running a business after all. It doesn't matter of like the creative aspect of it. If he doesn't like it, if he doesn't think it would make money, then it ain't gonna happen. Let's see what else we got here. All I could say is that this is the kind of decision that is predictable. The number of DreamWorks movies and projects that got canceled because it wouldn't make a ton of profits at box office scores can't be ignored. Sometimes you need to take a breather and work on some moderate ideas. You can't always dive directly on the sixth gear. P.S. Your green bar is inactive. Yeah, that's what I was trying to fix up. I was trying to see if I can get that thing working, but I don't know. I'm just... For now, I'm just, like, I'm currently running a show, so I'm doing what I can. But anyways, yeah, well, the thing is that it's not just DreamWorks that's guilty of it. It's every studio ever that is guilty of it, that they would cancel a project because they don't think it's a money-making idea. Warner Brothers is guilty of it. Disney especially is guilty of it. Sony Pictures is definitely guilty of it. Paramount is guilty of it. Universal is guilty of it. Everyone is basically guilty. I mean, like, just because this is one prominent example, just because this information is out in the public, that doesn't mean that they're the only ones. That doesn't mean this is the only example of it. It doesn't mean that Jeffrey Katzenberg is the only one that's doing this. This is unfortunately very commonplace in the industry, and for now, there's not really a whole lot that you could really do about it in order to change things up so that the creatives can have more control and have more of a say of what can be made and what wouldn't. Let's see now. This really is very interesting and fascinating. Personally, I definitely think Me and My Shadow could have a lot of potential and could have had an interesting concept. As for if Jeffrey Katzenberg being the reason the film got canceled, I can believe it considering his history at Disney and his poor decisions. Then again, what else do you expect from the same man who created the now dead Quibi? Yeah, that's also a major thing. Like, Jeffrey Katzenberg is not just the guy who created, this is not just the guy who nearly destroyed part of your world from The Little Mermaid. This is also the guy who created what I think we could objectively say is the worst streaming service in history with Quibi. Like, that thing was a massive disaster. So, yeah, he's not the brightest ideas. He's not the brightest when it comes to making decisions. Maybe when it comes to making profits, but making creative decisions and stuff like that, maybe he's not the best. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm not surprised that Katzenberg canceled this project given that the infamous history of certain films he was involved in. I would have loved to see the film come to life since it looked interesting. In fact, if this project was revived, it would give DreamWorks back on top. It would give DreamWorks back on top since the films they make recently, like Trolls and Boss Baby, are mediocre to bad. Though it probably won't, since that one is pretty much dead no matter what. So yeah, I'm not at all surprised with the news. You know, this might be a little bit this might be a little bit of a hot take, but honestly, I feel like as interesting as the concept is, there is still that chance that maybe it's for the best that Me and My Shadow would have been canceled, because there is still that chance that maybe the movie would have sucked. Like, yeah, the animation technique is fascinating, but that's just a style. And style can often mean nothing compared to the substance of the writing. And if the writing isn't as equally as strong as the animation style as they presented, well then, it doesn't matter what animation technique they would present. The movie would still suck because the writing is bad. So there is still that chance, however. I mean, like, personally, in my opinion, would I have wanted to see Me and My Shadow? Yeah, definitely. It does sound like a very fascinating idea to introduce this aspect of, like, the world of shadows and stuff like that. But there is still that option, well, not the option, but there is still that risk that maybe the whole idea is not worth it and it would have been poorly executed. So I'm just laying that out there. Like, you never know. Now, let's see. I think I'll read 2 more comments and then I'll move on to the next story. It always sucks to see promising projects get canceled. I've heard stories from filmmakers who've had good relationships with executives, but a lot of times they're just out of touch millionaires and billionaires. I know how Katzenberg looks, but it's always funnier to imagine looking like he's acting like Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder. Shame we're not getting this and Edgar Wright's version, but that's just business. Exactly, man. A lot of people are really focused on what they are seeing in front of the screen. People are forgetting so much about the business aspect and how that plays a very significant factor onto the industry, and how some decisions are made more because of the business and not because of the creative aspect of it. So that's why it's important to keep an eye out and to pay attention to some of the business decisions that are going on, because they could completely reshape how studios function. Let's see, and one more comment now. Among other canceled animated films like Nimona or Gigantic, Me and My Shadow held the most promise, to the point where I wish Jeffrey Katzenbach, as I called him. Oh, no, wait, no, I need to say that correctly. Jeffrey Katzenbach hadn't got his way, so we could see what they had in store. I mean, what do you expect from the guy who tried to force Aardman to recast Wallace? Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if he told the layoff animators to listen to that one song from Trolls, a la Quibi Closure. Yeah, oh yeah, that is true. I think, yeah, that was the one thing that he did. Oh my god, that is so true. Like, I completely forgot about that, where Jeffrey Katzenberg tried to encourage his Quibi employees. Was like, hey, I'm so sorry that you all lost your jobs and that the whole business is shutting down. How about you watch this clip from a movie that made me money? Why don't you watch some Trolls? Can't stop the feeling! Just dance, dance, dance. Oh my god, Jeffrey. It's times like this that sometimes maybe it's for the best that Jeffrey is out of the animation industry. Alright, so let's go and jump on to our next story. And we're going to be talking about something in the animation industry that is not often talked about. I know we talk about the creative aspect and sometimes we talk about the business aspect, but what about the technology? What about the modern tools that we are currently using in order to create animation, in order to create our visions and bring them to life, to draw and to develop and to bring them to life? What about those tools in particular? And the next story that I do want to bring up is honestly quite fascinating, because we are going to be heading to Japan, to one of their most prestigious animation studios, where they actually got an idea of what they want to do with technology and how they want to be more reliant on technology in order to create their animated works. And what I am talking about is actually regarding AI technology. Yes, apparently, at Toei Animation, they have revealed that they are currently working with some AI technology in order to speed things up with the development of their animated projects. And they already got a couple of AIs to go and help them speed up with the whole process with some of their aspects. Not all of it, but they are hoping some of them they can go and try out in order to help speed things up and also especially to make it more cost effective. The first one that they have mentioned, and this was something from all the way back to March, actually, a few months ago, where they actually had an AI tool called Scenify. And to read you a little bit from my source here on Variety, it states, in March, the company announced it will be using the AI tool Scenify by technology firm Preferred Networks Inc. to convert real landscape photographs into animation-like images. A task that might typically take 4 hours and 50 minutes will be reduced to a mere 50 minutes with Scenify. To showcase the collaboration, Toei Animation posted the experimental film Irvin on its YouTube channel in February. And they have also announced that just recently, they are now going to be working on another AI piece of technology where the AI will go and actually do the coloring, or more specifically, it even says, Toei Animation also said this year that it was utilizing another AI technique to quicken the coloring of the clothes of characters. So that's basically the big thing that Toei is doing right now, that they're relying on computers, on AI, in order to create their backgrounds and in order to develop the colors of the characters. And I actually did find this experimental animated short that Toei has made, Irvin. Now, I'm not going to be playing the clips because when it comes to anime and stuff like that, they can be extremely strict when it comes to YouTube copyright claims, so I'm not in the mood to be dealing with that right now. But here is an example of what you can see right over here. If you are watching this, by the way, then you could probably see an example of the technology that they use with Scenify, where they are taking these like live photographs of landscapes and just these scenic areas, and they're turning that into animation, where they're taking they're taking the trees, they're taking the buildings, and they're developing that into a more artistic look. And that's just a couple of examples. Like, here's that's kind of the same thing now with just more trippy bubbles. Here's another one. Here's one also where you see this dystopian background on the side, and you see all the different signs and stuff like that. That's another example. Or even just this holographic district that they're doing for example, and they could change up the colors and stuff like that. Let's see if there are a few other examples. Oh, like this one. Yeah, where they are in this museum. This is another example where they are taking photographs and they're making them a little more artistic. Or even this one right over here, it's this massive picture of a boat. And again, this is something that for artists, it would take them hours in order to go and create. But with Scenify, they could just cut that into a fraction, and and Toei doesn't have to pay anyone in order to go and develop that. So that is currently the situation with what they are doing right now. That's how they're trying out their animations, and in order to not only speed things up, but to also make it more cost effective. And I don't think I have to go and explain why they have to go and do so, because, well, nowadays, of course, number one, one being the pandemic, but also because of the landscape of entertainment that's really changing, and the fact that anime has to go and deal with numerous upon numerous of different distributors and different ways of distribution. It's not just on television anymore, but you also got streaming service, you got physical media, you got the internet, you got all different sorts of places. And for them, it's actually a very hard time to go and actually find a way to actually make some legitimate profit out of it. In fact, there's actually one quote here coming from the president of Toei Animation, Katsuhiro Tagaki, as he states, "I feel like the number of hits is small compared to the number of works that are out in the world," he says. "How do you not make a profit from animation works that are expensive to... how do you now make a profit from animation works that are expensive to produce? The pandemic proved to be a challenge for another sort, but investors are sanguine that the company can come up with an answer to the president's question. Its stock price has more than doubled over the past year, and advances in technology and a further tapping of overseas market will be key." So right now, that is the biggest situation right now. It's dealing with the consequences of all these different distributors, that it's becoming harder and harder to actually profit off of animes and to actually make a successful anime, and especially regarding the pandemic. So they're kind of using their resources and trying their best in order to find ways in order to make animes as cost effective as possible, in order to safely go and distribute them. Now, one thing that I will say is that I know that for animators who are listening, I mean, honestly, I would be surprised if there are some actual animators working in the industry who are listening to this. If you are, hello. But anyways, I know that for some animators, especially independent ones, this sounds like an absolute dream, especially with the idea of like taking a photo, like you could just take a picture outside and you can convert them with this AI technology in order to go and create these like beautiful painterly like landscape backgrounds that you can use for your animations and stuff like that. Yeah, that would be a dream, because a lot of artists prefer to work on characters more so than just on backgrounds. So they would definitely prefer to go and do that, where like their artistic like talents can be reserved to what they love the most, while the AI could take care of the things that they don't really want to do. Not to mention also like coloring as well. Like that just feels like a cherry on top on this kind of dream. And I know that technically from like AI is becoming more and more of a piece of technology that people want to use in animation. Like one thing that I do know that artists are really desperate to want to actually make this a reality, that they really want AI to go and take care of it, and that is in-betweens. That animators really want to go and just focus on drawing their key poses, and they want the AI to go and fill in the in-betweens so that they could supply like the drawings that don't necessarily matter as much, or that they're much harder in order to create like these good, beautiful, smooth, and like very not realistic, but like smooth and believable type of movements. That is so far the dream that people are hoping to bring to life. And there have been some attempts from time to time. And technically, what we are seeing here with what Toei is doing is not necessarily the first time that we are seeing machines actually doing the work of animators. In fact, this has been like something we have seen like a long time in history, even like back in the days of Walt Disney. In fact, you guys probably remember the Xerox process, where instead of having an entire ink and paint department where you have a bunch of employees working on the cells in order to work on the final frames of the animation by adding in the color and stuff like that, instead the Xerox process would do most of the job, would actually do the entire job of the ink and paint process, where they would directly take the drawings of the animators and they would digitally go, well, not digitally, but mechanically go and immediately put those drawings and like retrace them onto the cells. So what you would see on screen is directly the drawings that were done by the animators. And At first, it was a little bit messy. When you do watch something like 101 Dalmatians or The Sword in the Stone, they didn't necessarily perfect the use as of yet. But then suddenly you would jump onto something like The Jungle Book, The Aristocats, Robin Hood. Then you start to see that, they were getting a little bit of the hang of it. So there is a long prominent history where we have seen machines taking some of the jobs in animation in order to make the process quicker and in order to make it cost effective. Now, I know that this kind of AI technology really is a dream for some. But then again, I do have to say that I feel like it's honestly extremely taboo, the fact that especially a Japanese animation studio would be using AI technology. I think it goes without saying that the labor and the working environments in a Japanese animation studio, it's rough. It really is. Like, working on long, grueling hours to make these very complex style drawings, and the payment that they get, it's like, saying that it's minimum would honestly be a bit generous. Like, it's sad when when even someone like me is currently making more money than the typical animator working in an anime like One Piece or Naruto or anything like that. And it's not just with like certain studios. It really is like a massive industry problem. Like, even just recently, not like a few days ago, it was even reported like even the people who are working on like Netflix shows, on like animes for Netflix, even they're having some work environment issues and like payment problems as well. So it really is kind of a taboo subject, and it feels a little bit taboo of the fact that a studio like Toei, one of the biggest animation studios in Japan, they're pretty much cutting away, like, when you do look at it this way, like, when you do look into the jobs aspect of it, they are cutting away a lot of jobs in order to have this cost-effective mechanical solution. In a way, it's kind of like the nightmare that some people have with computers and stuff like that, that one day machines would go and replace people's jobs and stuff like that. And I feel like that's kind of what we are seeing right now, is that Toei is replacing people with machines, because with machines they could save up money and they could pretty much have the same solution, except they would do it in a much faster way. So honestly, I do like the idea of these, I do like the idea of AI technology, trying some animation techniques and like helping out with some of the animation process, like the backgrounds, and maybe one day they'll actually perfect the technology in order to create in-betweens and stuff like that. But when it is a major studio like Toei that's using it, especially from Japan, I don't know, I feel like that's when we are going into some extremely iffy territory right here. Alright, so with that said though, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to know, what do you think of the idea of a studio like Toei using AI in order to go and speed things up with the animation process, like with backgrounds and coloring? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you approve of using AI technology? Do you think it's a little bit problematic? Let me know what you think on this. Let's see. Do we have any comments? Oh, okay, yeah, we do. Considering the modern anime, I could see this going pretty well. The images you've just shown in the chat, the chat wall, are pretty breathtaking and very imaginative. Toei Animation is taking an interesting direction in their animation, and maybe even Studio Ghibli could even do the same. Okay, that's interesting. Let's see now. Gotta say, this is a weird idea, but to its credit, that rendered image and landscape looks absolutely gorgeous. Plus, it does make sense why they would do this, so I'll keep a watchful eye on it so far. And I'll even go ahead and tip my, I guess, green sword hat to such an intriguing idea. By the way, is it weird that my biggest focus of the story is what the hell is going on with F9 promo in the corner? Yeah, I don't know how to get rid of this thing, man. It's just... yeah, I don't know. This thing, like, it's a variety thing. They keep playing this crap, and it's like, how do you get rid of this? Go away. How do I make you go away? Seriously. It's variety. It's a problem with this freaking. It's a problem with this website. I can't get rid of this stupid video that's automatically playing. I'm the attention here. It's not John Cena or Vin Diesel. That's like down here, you know. Anyways, no. But one thing I do agree is that technically, yes, the results that we are seeing so far, especially from Irvin right here, like, yeah, they definitely look beautiful. The fact that technically this is like a picture and then a machine would go and stylize it to make it look like a legit drawing, yeah, that looks epic. And like, here's another one that actually looks pretty gorgeous right here. Like, this is like near the end of it, but it looks great. Like, I won't deny, like, the piece of AI technology that they have so far, especially with Scenify, yeah, it looks beautiful. No doubt about that. So we know that this technology actually works well. What I'm wondering is it moral to use this technology, especially for a major studio like Toei Animation, who could probably afford having actual people work on that process? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but you know, it's just there's just something about it. It's like, on one hand, yeah, it looks great and it's understandable for why they're doing this, but then on the other hand, it's just, yeah, you know what I mean. All right. Anyways, as cool as AI sounds, so that so many would want to get their hands on it, let's not forget that technology is a tool, and a tool is only as good as whoever is using it. Some of the most gifted artists on the planet can make amazing things with pavement chalk and a simple phone camera. Again, this is going back to what we were talking about earlier with Me and My Shadow, how people are more interested in the idea of hand-drawn coming to mainstream again than the film itself. Yeah, but that's the problem, is that you need to have, yeah, but the thing is that if you want hand-drawn to come back, you need a really good movie and a really good marketing team as well in order to get people's attention. You can't just put it out there and just magically expect money to dive in and then suddenly, ta-da, hand-drawn is back again. You can't really expect that. So that's the thing, you know, that is honestly the thing. Like, yeah, technique is great, but you know, you did actually say it best, JP, that it is true that the tool is only as good as the artist who is using it. So you do bring up a good point there. Let's see. I'm really mixed about this kind of technology coming to the animation industry. Sure, I love that it helps with cutting time and getting the films done, but I am honestly a bit terrified that they could put artists out of the job. This AI technology could definitely have potential becoming an amazing tool if done right, but am I the only one that is worried about the artists so much? I am a strong supporter of the independent artists. Heck, I'm an independent artist myself. I feel like John Martinson in this. Yeah, and honestly, that is my biggest worry. It's like, what's going to happen to those background artists and to those colorists that are going to be that are going to have their jobs taken away from them because of this technology? Would they still have a use? Would they still have, would they still have a need? I don't know. It's just like, it's just that is the worrying part. I mean, like, I can imagine that maybe they would still come in handy for some of the things that you can't necessarily photograph in real life. There is that aspect that is true, but still, though, this does seem like that's the part where I feel like it's taboo. It's like, it feels more like a job taker more so than it is a handy tool to actually help out with the process. I mean, yeah, it is, but still, there is that aspect. It's like, well, what about like the people whose job is it to actually make the backgrounds and to do coloring for the characters? Let's see. I think I'll go and read one more comment before we jump in the next story. I think using AI for making complicated animation looks interesting, and we also need remote animation jobs for people who don't want to move to another state or country due to financial crisis. I mean, yeah, like, I get that, and I mean, the funny thing is that nowadays, because of the pandemic, remote jobs and remote location and to do work at home and stuff like that has become a lot more popular and has become more vital than ever. Like, it's going to be hard to imagine if things will truly be back to normal, like how things were before the pandemic and stuff like that. I think, like, the idea of remote jobs is still something that that will be a thing, especially nowadays when we have seen a lot of animated works that are done remotely. Like, I don't know if we would see more animated, like mainstream animated features do that with stuff like Raya and Luca and Mitchell's versus the Machines and stuff like that, but that would definitely be the case with animated works, especially with the projects done by Vivzy Pop, with stuff like Hazbin Hotel and crap. What was the other? Fudge. Suddenly, it just like escaped my mind. What is the other project that what is the project that Vivzy did also? I know there's Hazbin Hotel. Helluva Boss. Thank you very much. Yes, that's what I'm thinking. Like, Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss, those are also great examples of animators that are working where they are, working at home, and just immediately doing, and just working on this one major project. So that's another great example right there. So yeah, it's honestly another interesting story to go and discuss, but who knows? Like, will AI fully replace artists and stuff like that? Not entirely, but you know, it is still something that is worth mentioning and something to keep an eye out on. Alright, so moving on to the next story. I know that a lot of you are excited for me to talk about this. It was a rather intriguing trailer that did come out, and a lot of people had very mixed feelings about this. Very mixed feelings. And even watching it right now, it's hard to really put in the right words about how I feel when watching this trailer, at least. So with that said, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for the upcoming live-action animation hybrid movie of Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Clifford, no fetch! Clifford!
Good!
You may not believe it, but there is magic all around us.
Oh really, John Cleese?
There are times it can be hard to find,
Did you bring your garbage to school?
but sometimes the magic finds us.
Look at you. Uncle Casey, so cute.
I'm so red.
How big is he gonna get?
That depends, doesn't it?
On what?
On how much you love him.
I wish we were big and strong, and the world couldn't hurt us. Clifford? Uncle Casey!
Oh no, we're gonna be late for school.
About the dog? Clifford, be a good boy and drop it. Ew. Bless you. Shouldn't we try to hide him or something?
It's New York. No one will even notice.
Pizza. Just a big. Whew. Why don't we get you on the scale here, bud? I'm just gonna write heavy.
What if you found someone who made you feel like you could do anything? Clifford, no fetch! Oh no.
This dog is killing me.
Oh look, they're playing! Well, you don't see that every day.
Maybe it's time to feed him.
Alright, so that was the trailer for Clifford the Big Red Dog, which is going to be coming to theaters on September 17th. And one thing that I will say, like, just to immediately start things off, I will give a credit that it actually did start off pretty well. Like, it actually did start off with a very touching and heartfelt tone that, honestly, it felt like it was pretty easy to get into. That basically there is this girl and, yeah, like the typical outcast where she is a reject, she's being made fun of in school, and then goes into this magical pet shop where she would find Clifford. And then, of course, you got John Cleese on the side telling her that, like, oh, he will grow big, depends on how much you love her. And then, like, you got that tender moment where she's cuddling with Clifford and, you know, tearing up and stuff like that. But then, once that tear dropped, and it did that shiny little ding, like, you know what I'm talking about, like, yeah, like, this little moment... Yeah, like, when that tear sparkled and, like, created this magic, and suddenly we see Clifford, as gigantic as he is, oh, man, that's, you know, going downhill would be generous. Like, that's like going on an Olympic dive. This is Clifford, like, jumping off of the board and just, like, belly flopping down to the pool. Like, it really went downhill so quickly, and, like, what seemed like something that could be potentially heartfelt, suddenly, it just becomes, like, your bland, typical kids movie. Like, complete with the same shenanigans and stuff like that. Only this time around, it's about this stupidly huge puppy. That's really what it is. It's just about this gigantically big CGI puppy that's just running amok the city. And they're just doing what they can in order to deal with the shenanigans that he's dealing with. And all the crazy situations where a lot of it just sounds like a Marmaduke comic, where the grand majority of the punchline is just, that dog be too big! And that's pretty much it, where... I think that's, like, one of my biggest problems, like, when you immediately get into, like, the 1 minute mark and stuff like that, it just feels like your bland, typical, animated, you know, this is just your typical kids flick. It just goes into the same type of jokes that you would normally expect with, this, extraordinary sidekick, which in this case is Clifford the Big Red Dog, and the fact that he is this big red dog, and because the girl loved him so much, that's how he became gigantically big and stuff like that. Like, maybe they will go more into the heartfelt aspects of it, but other than that, though, no, I doubt it. It feels like, you know, to get into the heart of the entire movie, you gotta go through a lot of crap. I could tell you that. And also... another thing that I do have a massive problem with this, at least what we're seeing with this trailer, is Clifford himself. Is the fact that they had to keep making this giant CGI dog. And my God, let's just look at this again. Yeah, and of course you gotta have that joke of, like, you know, the typical kids flick joke of, like, the dude that's just randomly screaming when they first see the random extraordinary thing. And let's just look at Clifford again.
And drop it.
Yeah, this CGI, I'm sorry, this is crap. Clifford just looks like crap. He really does, and the reason is, like, I don't blame the animators who are working on it. I just, you know, honestly, I'm just pretty convinced that, honestly, we need to stop making CGI dogs, okay? If you want to get a dog, just get a legitimate dog and just work from there. Just do green screen effects, do practical effects, just work with a real dog instead of doing stupid CGI things, because ever since Cruella, I'm starting to be sick and tired of seeing CGI dogs in these big movies, because it's so obvious when they are fake. And I mean, keep in mind, I actually do like Cruella. I actually do consider it one of the better Disney live action flicks, but that CGI on the dogs is an absolute joke. And do I need to bring back the notion that they decided to go full Batman on Cruella by having the Dalmatians kill Cruella's mother? There is that. So honestly, excuse me if I feel a little bit sick and tired of seeing these CGI dogs, and Clifford is not helping, especially like, yeah, like when he's chasing the Wilhelm scream ball, like when we got this part. There it is, the Wilhelm scream. Yeah, this jaunty little walk right over here. It's like, nah, man, this just doesn't work. It doesn't work, period. Oh my God. And did I mention the jokes are pretty bad so far? Like, the jokes that we have seen in this trailer, they are pretty awful, you know, and that's just being generous, especially like, you know, like, as I mentioned before, like the typical jokes like this. Like, yeah, we gotta have that. And then, of course, we gotta have, like, you know, it feels like it's hard to run away from, you know, you cannot really escape a kid's movie nowadays without the presence of Kenan Thompson. I love Kenan, but for God's sakes, man, seeing you in these kids' movies, like, I understand you need a paycheck, but can you do something else, Kenan? Is Saturday Night Live not paying you enough, dude? I'm just asking.
Whew. Why don't we get you on the scale here, bud? I'm just gonna write heavy.
Yeah, you gotta write heavy. Yeah, sure, as if that joke works. You know, honestly, I feel like I just feel like Kenan here is like, well, here we go again with this kind of thing. Oh God, but yeah, and not to mention that, like, we gotta have, like, not just physical humor and these dumb types of gags, but on top of that, like, do we need gas humor as well? Like, this thing feels like like, do we need to have the gas humor be so prominent, or like or more specifically bodily fluid humor? Like, especially we need to have like the sneeze joke. Yeah, like the giant creature is doing a sneeze, haha funny, now the main character is filled with snot. Or like no, better yet, the way this trailer capped this off. Oh, what better conclusion could you give than a frickin' burp joke?
Maybe it's time to feed him.
Yeah, because what a perfect way to go and conclude your trailer, to convince people to watch your movie. Put up a godforsaken burp joke. Oh, great. That's, yeah. Yeah, and by the way, because of that burp joke and because of the other stuff, like, I just noticed that right now, like, it is rated PG because it has mild action, it has thematic elements, and there's also another one, impolite humor. Apparently, impolite humor would go and get you PG. Yeah, sure. Which is ironic because I think in the last episode, we actually did just talk about how Hunchback of Notre Dame is rated G, and yet something like freaking Clifford the Big Red Dog is PG. Yeah, that you figure it out how that makes sense, you know? But yeah, overall though, I can't help but say that honestly, I'm just not excited about this Clifford the Big Red Dog movie. And it's not necessarily because I'm not familiar with Clifford, I'm not a fan of Clifford, it's nothing like that. It's just because what we are seeing so far just feels like the typical kids flick. They're doing the same typical jokes, the same typical crappy looking CGI, and all that kind of stuff. Granted, it does look like there might be some potential with the heart and stuff like that. Like, honestly, I'm just gonna say this right now. It looks like John Cleese is probably gonna be the best thing about this movie, since he is gonna be the supplier of the heart of this whole thing. But, like, afterwards, yeah, I feel like you might get some good elements in here, and I don't think this will be the worst movie of the year. Like, it's gonna be hard to beat when we already got contenders such as Tom and Jerry, the 2021 Tom and Jerry movie, and America the Motion Picture. But what we are seeing with Clifford so far, yeah, there's no promise here. I'm honestly not that interested to check this one out. Alright, with that said and done, let us now go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about Clifford the Big Red Dog? How do you feel about this trailer? Are you guys not as interested on it as I am? Do you disagree with me and are actually pretty hyped up about this? Let me know what you all think. Okay, let's see now. This simply looks like the typical live-action CGI hybrid kiddie fodder with poor elements and cheap jokes. It doesn't help that it's coming from the director of Alvin and the Chipmunks 4, two of the writers of the live-action Smurfs movies, and Zookeeper, and one of the writers of Playmobil the movie. Gonna be skipping this one, but I'll give it credit that it has a poop joke where Dr. Ian Malcolm comes in and says, "That is one big pile of crap." Yeah, I don't think they would do it. I mean, yeah, it's rated PG for impolite humor, but I don't think they would go that far. Let's see now. Oh, you want me to say something? What am I supposed to say about yet another live-action movie based on a cartoon that takes place in New York City with bad CGI? Oh yeah, that is true. Is it true? Like, this is New York, right? Like, where they are right now? Just want to double check, like, with the landscape and stuff like that. Yeah, is it New... Yeah, this does look like New York. I mean, you do see, I mean, it's either here or here, you see the Empire State Building. That's the Freedom Tower. Yeah, it does look like... It's hard to deny it. It's New York. Hold on a sec. Oh, yeah, no, never mind. Yeah, this is Central Park right over here. Yep, it's another kids' flick set in New York. We got another New York here. Great. Anyways, I don't even have to tell it's bad. Did I mention that the director of this directed the fourth Alvin and the Chipmunks movie? We already did mention that. Which won a Razzie Award. That's a giant neon sign that's just screaming, this movie will suck. Alright, let's see now. I don't know if I'll be watching this movie. To be honest, despite the CGI Clifford looking pretty crappy, it looks pretty decent in my opinion. I remember watching the show on PBS Kids, but I was never a huge fan of it. If I felt that I wanted to see this movie with my family, then yeah, I will check it out. Also, how do you feel about the BTS song Dynamite in the background and the boy band as a whole? Honestly, I have like zero knowledge on Korean pop music, on K-pop, and I honestly have zero knowledge on BTS, so honestly for me, listening to the song here, it's just another typical modern pop song that they're just using for this trailer. So really it's just, for me, this is just the typical crap, really. Like I didn't even know this was from BTS, so I don't know. That's honestly my opinion. It's just, don't ask me. I know nothing about K-pop. Let's see now. This movie feels like one of those regular movies with the kids being bullied, and then something good happens to them, then tries to be funny, but they're not. I'm not sure about this movie. The CGI dog does not look great. Like you said, it just used real dogs. I don't get why it's PG. Also, why is BTS in the trailer? Because BTS is making money right now. K-pop is a pretty popular genre. Why else do you think Sony Animation is currently making a movie that's all about K-pop? I'm just saying. Let's see. Well, this is, something. I know nothing about Clifford, but I am excited for the next film in the Monsterverse. Also, between this and Pokemon the first movie, what is it with kids' movies with magical tears? Also, who would win in a fight, Clifford or Godzilla? Oh, I think the girl would need to show a lot of love for... she needs to show a lot of love to Clifford so that Clifford could grow into a gigantic size capable of fighting Godzilla. But yeah, honestly, that's the one thing I feel more interested to talk about with Clifford than the actual movie itself. Because at least it would be fun to talk about how Clifford the Big Red Dog is a kaiju, and that he would actually go and compete against either King Kong or Godzilla, and if he were in the correct size, who would he fight against and who would he be as an ally? Would he be on Team Kong or would he be on Team Godzilla? Again, I'd much rather talk about that kind of nonsense than actually talking about the movie itself, because at least talking about Clifford as a kaiju is fun. All right, I'll read one more comment before we jump on to the next story. This just looks like the typical live-action CGI hybrid movie from the early 2000s. It also doesn't help that it's from the director of Old Dogs and Alvin and the Chipmunks: The Road Trip. Yeah, I think, honestly, that's really the big thing about this, is that this feels like one of those movies that should have been released like 10 or 15 years ago, and it would have been more in place than it does now. Or more, I think more 10 years, like, it would make sense for this to be released 10 years ago when those movies were more commonplace, back when studios were really capitalizing on the success of Alvin and the Chipmunks. But again, I'm not that interested in it, but if you are interested, then just a reminder that Clifford the Big Red Dog is coming to theaters on September 17th. Okay, so the next story that I have here is not necessarily a trailer, but rather a special look. Our first full look, if you will, at the behind the scenes of what's going to be the next big anthology series on Disney+. Now, I know last time we did talk about how there is going to be this African-themed animated anthology movie that will be coming to Disney+ in late 2022. But this one, however, I'm sure immediately it will grab a lot of people's attention. Because, number one, it's more of an anthology series that people are more used to right now, especially with stuff like Love, Death, and Robots, but especially the fact that it is themed to Star Wars. And this is going to be Disney's first major anime project that they are fully bringing in onto Disney+, or more exclusively to Disney+. So, with that said, let us take a look into the special look, take a look at the special look at Star Wars Visions.
Star Wars Visions is going to be an exciting anime anthology series coming to Disney Plus in September.
Anime? What?
Japanese animation inspired a lot of the people at Lucasfilm over the years. We loved the idea of seeing Star Wars expressed in that way.
Each one of these studios that we approached, we found hardcore Star Wars fans. They all had a story they wanted to tell.
初めてスター・ウォーズの企画って言ったらもうあれなんかこのような夢のようなことができるのかなというふうにはちょっと思いましたね。
いやもうついに来たなともう待ってました。
その時の提案の内容がこれスター・ウォーズでこれやっていいのかっていうなんか面白いものだったんで。
We were looking for something from the heart and soul of the individual creators. They are their visions through the lens of Star Wars.
There are so many genres at play. Big and bold, romantic and sweeping, funny, comedic.
で、この作品独自の、スタイルとしては、ロックオペラということで
日本の山岳文化みたいなことをしっかり描けたらな。
暗黒教の双子が生まれてこれがどうなるのかというのが基本的な設定ですね。
ライトセーバーって子供の夢が詰まったガジェットだと思うんですよね。でそれをさらに今回僕はここもちょっと和のテイストみたいなものを。
We tried to have some retro vintage feeling. We couldn't skip the Astro Boy influence. People love Astro Boy.
どちらかといえば自分は最初象徴的な意味を、さっき言ったように、人間の姿をしてない主人公にしたかった。
スター・ウォーズみたいな時代劇を作りたいマスターとパダワンが未知の敵みたいなのに遭遇するっていうお話ですね。本当に最後はスター・ウォーズあれば、本望だったなとは思います。
We feel so fortunate to be working with these filmmakers. There are so many opportunities to reflect Japanese storytelling in a Star Wars universe.
Star Wars Visions is completely different than everything else in Star Wars storytelling. Audiences will fall in love with it.
And that is Star Wars Visions, which is going to be coming out this December. It's going to be coming out this September. And I know, probably for some of you that are just listening to it, you're probably so confused. It's like, what the fridge are they saying? I don't speak Japanese, so I feel lost. Okay, so just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up and just like a quick summary, Star Wars Visions, they actually collaborated with many of some pretty well-known and prestigious Japanese animation studios and work with many of the artists in there in order for them to go and contribute to these Star Wars stories, to go and put in their own take of the Star Wars universe. And there will be some that will feature familiar characters, like we saw in the special look that Jabba the Hutt is going to be in there, that Boba Fett will be in there too. But for the most part, they're going to be creating their own unique characters. They will implement their own unique style, and they will give a bit of a Japanese taste onto the world of Star Wars. And apparently there's going to be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, there will be 9 different stories from several different studios. And just to go and read you quickly from my link here on YouTube. Oh, actually, we got a specific release date even. Ooh, that's awesome. But anyways, it says here, apparently from Kamikaze Doga, The Duel, Geno Studios with twin engines, Lop and Ocho, Studio Colorido with twin engines, Tatooine Rhapsody, Trigger, the twins, Trigger again, The Elder, Kinema Citrus, The Village Bride, Science Saru, Akakiri, Science Saru again, TOB1, and finally Production IG, The Ninth Jedi. And what they're promising is just a variety of styles and variety of different types of storytellings, like a variety of different stories. Where, as they mentioned, some are going to be a little bit more comedic, some will have like a cartoonier, softer approach in the style of Astro Boy, some are going to be a little bit more epic, some are going to be a little bit more serious, some are going to be a little bit more romantic, some are going to be a little bit more immersive. They're trying out so many different techniques. It's basically bringing anime into the Star Wars universe. And honestly, after looking at this, I feel pretty intrigued, actually. As you guys probably know, I'm more of a casual Star Wars fan. I do love watching The Mandalorian, and I've seen the movies and stuff like that. And honestly, looking at this, I feel like this could actually go very well, especially with the fact that when you do think about Star Wars, there are already a lot of elements in the Star Wars movies and within the Star Wars universe that are already heavily based in Japan, that are based on Japan culture, rather it be Japanese culture itself, rather it be ancient Japan with Japan history, or rather it be with Japanese filmmaking as well, where within the Star Wars movies, even in like some of the, like even in the first trilogy, there are some homages to some older Japanese filmmakers. And with Star Wars Visions, with this, I feel like there would be no trouble to bring the Star Wars universe onto something like anime to truly embrace its Japanese side. And that's what we are seeing right here. It's almost like a different Star Wars, if you will, that really is all about the Japanese aspect. And you look at some of them right here, like even some of the costumes that the characters would be wearing are based more on Japanese gowns. And even like you see, like the lightsabers, for examples, they're more reminiscent to katanas than actual swords, or it's a little bit more different than the typical lightsabers that we are more familiar with. And not to mention that they are bringing up unique different types of characters. Like one of them is going to have this rabbit girl that will be one of the main characters. I think that will be a part of the plot line of Lop and Ocho as well. Not to mention like now Jedis like actually do legit look more like samurais. Like we also got like all these different all these different aliens that are going to be coming up. Like there was one quick example, just want to double check. Yeah, like this. Oh, fudge nabbit. It's just, it popped in 1 second. There we go. Like you see all these different types of like aliens that they're going to contribute to like a lot of new components and new elements that are going to be added onto Star Wars. And we've already seen plenty of examples how like not just Japanese animation, but just how how animation in general can really work out within the Star Wars universe, especially with the Clone Wars series and with like even up to right now with the episodes of The Bad Batch. And probably one thing that this does remind me so much about is going to be the Genndy Tartakovsky version of Star Wars. You guys probably remember the little micro series of Star Wars Clone Wars, like the precursor to the CGI Star Wars Clone Wars series, and how that was meant to like bridge the gap between Episode 2 and Episode 3. And that one is a lot more action-oriented, and like when you think about the action side of Genndy Tartakovsky, you know that he is heavily influenced on anime, and that he is heavily influenced on Japanese filmmaking as well. So it's going to be, in a way, a bit of a throwback to that, where, like, I guess you could say the Genndy Tartakovsky version of Star Wars is kind of like the closest thing that we've had so far to an actual Star Wars anime. That is until now with what we got with this. So personally, I don't know about you guys, but honestly, as a fan of Star Wars, I cannot be more excited for this one. I think this, like, if this does work out, this could actually turn out to be absolutely epic. This could actually turn out to be something great. And already with a lot of the styles that we are seeing so far, they look absolutely beautiful. They do look awesome. And honestly, like I said before, the anime style, I think it does translate perfectly onto the world of Star Wars. So honestly, I'm going to be pretty optimistic about this one. This really does look cool. It looks very much promising, and it's nice to see that Disney really is going to be jumping onto the anime realm, because that is one thing a lot of weeaboos are just currently complaining about. It's the fact that apparently with Disney Plus, they don't have as much anime content or as much anime representation as something like Netflix or HBO Max, or even compared to like especially Crunchyroll or Funimation and stuff like that. And it is true, like Disney did not necessarily focus much on having like anime in their programmings and stuff like that, but seeing something like this come on board, you know, honestly, I'm not saying this is going to fill the gap, but at least this could be the start. Like, if Disney would be interested in bringing on board Disney Plus exclusive animes, then this could probably be a good start to something, especially when they got some major, like, prominent Japanese animation studios on board, like Production IG and stuff like that. So, honestly, I'm pretty optimistic on this one. And if you guys are excited to go and check out Star Wars Visions, then remember that it will be coming out exclusively on Disney Plus on September 22nd. And with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to know, what do you all think about Star Wars Visions so far? Are you all excited about this? Are you guys a little bit more iffy on the project? Let me know what you all think. Let's see now. Star Wars Visions really reminds me of Animatrix from The Matrix. Not sure if you have seen it, Matt, but this is what I'm getting the vibes from. I really like to see what Japanese anime studios like Production IG and Trigger have in store, since I do like what the trailer is showing me so far, and I can't wait for it to come out. They better be good, I hope. You know what? Funny enough, I do remember I actually did watch Animatrix. In fact, I could actually say it was actually one of the first Animats Classic reviews. But with that said, honestly, I hope this doesn't become another Animatrix, because I wasn't really that big of a fan of Animatrix, to be honest, because it really was the kind of movie that was more style over substance. There wasn't really much of a story that's going on within within those segments in Animatrix. It really did feel like just expand the world of the Matrix more so than to actually go and tell a story. So honestly, that's what I'm I'm hoping that with Star Wars Visions, they can go in a much better direction than Animatrix. I'm not saying Animatrix is bad. I just feel like it is quickly forgettable, and it feels more like just an expansion pack for the Matrix movies, more so than it actually is a legit movie in itself. Now, let's see what else we got here. I haven't seen the Star Wars shows as I've been focusing on the MCU shows, but this honestly looks pretty cool. The anime aesthetic surprisingly fits Star Wars, and the stories hold a lot of intrigue, so I'll definitely check it out. Hell, maybe it'll be as good as Disney Plus's last series containing the words Vision. It would have it wouldn't have the majesty of Jimmy Woo, but still, I'm stoked. Oh boy, you're kind of setting a pretty high bar. I haven't seen WandaVision, but I've heard a lot of really good things, and that it did a great job in kicking off the Marvel Cinematic Universe to go in the realm of TV shows or streaming shows, if you will. So honestly, that's what I'm hoping for. More like WandaVision, less like Animatrix. Let's see, what else do we have here? As a bit of a casual Star Wars fan myself, this looks to be amazing. Star Wars can be quite crazy at times, so adding let's see. Hold on, I got distracted a little bit. Star Wars can be quite crazy at times, so adding that Japanese flair that tends to be in anime feels like an amazing fit for it. I have a hard time deciding on which of these shorts will be my favorite, but I am still excited to see it when it comes out. Pick when it is released, man, because so far we only got a little bit of a taste of each. So just wait and see, man. Just wait and see. Let's see. Wow, just wow. Okay, calm down, Blizzard. This concept is absolutely bonkers. So many A-tier studios working with the big mouse for an anthology movie. This can only result in a smash hit. Hope Koji Morimoto or even Kazuhiro Otomo will be on board. May the Force be with them. We actually do have a list, and I don't know if they are on board, actually, because so far the list of... do we have the list of filmmakers? Okay, no, we don't. We only have... so far, we only have the list of the studios. Okay, we don't really have like much of the creatives. Anyways, yeah, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. What else do we got here? This really got my attention. While I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, this definitely did get my attention. I think it is really awesome that they are bringing in Japanese studios to help give a different style to Star Wars. Also, it's really great to see Star Wars going in a different and very interesting direction, especially with all the upcoming content for Disney Plus. And really, it's great to see, especially after the sequel trilogy ended up as a mess. Yeah, you got that right, dude. That is definitely true. Like The Mandalorian is helping, but Disney and Lucasfilms need to do a lot more now to try to pick up after the disaster that they have done with The Rise of Skywalker. Let's see now. I can't wait until people like Clownfish TV still go out and hate it, even though he's been praising anime in Japan and how and the comment just ends there. Oh yeah, like I would not be surprised if they're gonna have their haters. I mean, they'll find a way to like cram in being triggered and rant about feminism. I mean, that's all those channels do. Like they find a way to try to twist their narrative to just fuel in more hatred for women and for people of color, all in the name of their their blatant white nationalism, and just ranting about like, oh, being anti-woke is cool, when like all these anti-woke people need to learn to grow up. Okay, you're no longer 12, and it's not cool anymore to be anti-woke, all right? Just like learn to be mature, learn to be an actual intelligent human being, and actually learn to have some freaking empathy, okay? Maybe you can learn that being cool is actually helping those in need instead of being edgy, all right? The edgy days are done. It's over. Move on and grow up. All right, I'll read one more comment before we move on to our final story. Star Wars Visions? More like Star Wars anime. I was honestly not expecting this to be a blend of different Japanese cultural styles, but holy crap, this looks like passion and emotion. I'm a bit open to anime and Star Wars, so I might check this out. This brings out so many concepts and components which could make this a stellar series. Anyways, much like Genndy Tartakovsky's Star Wars. So yeah, this definitely has a lot of promise so far, so if you guys are interested in seeing Star Wars Visions, again, keep in mind, it will be released on Disney Plus on September 22nd. And now it is time that we shall go into a grand finale. Now, bear in mind, I am not sponsored by these people. I just find this story here a little bit interesting. It's actually a new Kickstarter campaign that actually just got out a few days ago. And with this Kickstarter campaign, they actually have an idea for another documentary, which that is starting to become a little bit more popular nowadays. Documentaries about something related to animation. Like we've seen a lot of crowdsourced campaigns that did come out, like Clay Dream, the documentary about Will Vinton, which already is starting to make its rounds in film festivals. And also Hand Drawn is still in production. But then we got this one. One that is actually based on a certain subject that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. In fact, this is actually regarding one of the most infamous aspects of animation. Well, not aspects, but one of the most infamous studios. A name in which brings in hilarity and embarrassment. I'm sure you're all familiar with Dingo Pictures. Yes, that is right, folks. On Kickstarter, you can actually go and fund for a project that is entirely based on Dingo Pictures. This is actually going to be made by a German filmmaker by the name, or at least in the description, by Jimmy Beetlebrox. And apparently Jimmy wants to go and make a documentary based on Dingo Pictures. And we actually have a little bit of a trailer, so how about we start things off by checking this trailer out.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
Disney ripoffs!
Dingo Pictures.
Dingo Pictures.
Dingo Pictures.
Like Dingo Pictures.
More information about Dingo Pictures.
Behind the scenes! This is gonna be fun.
Oh boy, well, yeah, I'm sure for those of you listening, after you've been jamming out by that little Yee song right over there, okay, so the whole thing is that this is a documentary in which the filmmaker actually did find the people who worked on those Dingo Picture movies, in which they are named, hold on a sec, yes, in which the filmmaker actually did find the producers Ludwig Ickert and Roswitha Haas. And this documentary wants to go and really go in depth into the making of these Dingo Picture films. So some of you might be wondering specifically, who is Dingo Pictures? What is it? So if you don't know Dingo Pictures, they are actually well known for making some of the worst looking mockbusters of all time. Like, think of like the bottom of the barrel in terms of animation. More bottom of the barrel than you could think of, like with the Emoji Movie, with Food Fight, with Norman the North, even compared to Where the Dead Go to Die. This is like some of the worst in animation with a budget of what is most likely 0. Well, okay, maybe that is not true, but Yeah, basically, they would go and make completely cheap-looking mockbusters, basically flat-out rip-offs of some of the popular movies back from the late 80s and 90s as well, ripping off movies such as Anastasia, The Lion King, The Land Before Time, even going to some of Walt Disney's classics like 101 Dalmatians and the Aristocats. In fact, here's a picture that you might recall. This maybe some of these characters right over here might actually ring a bell. But as you've probably heard in that trailer, what they are probably well known for the most is actually a meme. You are probably familiar with the Yi meme, where you have this like angry looking dinosaur where he would just say Yi. And there have been like a bunch of like different remixes, different interpretations, but the most common and the most popular one is where you would have that angry dinosaur and you would also have like this spiky dinosaur as well, where they would just sing that little tune of like bop 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 bop. You probably are familiar with that one. So that's basically Dingo Pictures, and of course it is something that for reviewers and for YouTubers, my god, they definitely supply some amazing entertainment with reactions and reviews and stuff like that. People such as Kid Icarus or Phaelus would go and review these movies and would talk about how bad these pictures are, how hilariously bottom of the barrel they could legitimately be. And that's what this documentary is about. It's about the history of this studio, the history of all these mockbusters, and how they ultimately came to be, and how they ended up in like these DVDs and VHSs, and how they were even sold on PlayStations and even on the Nintendo DS. But you might be wondering though, since this is a Kickstarter campaign, what is it that they're looking for? How much are they asking, and what would you get in return? Well, apparently in this Kickstarter campaign, considering it is from Germany, they are looking for euros, or like at least when you donate, it will be translated into euros. The big goal is going to be looking for 9,001 euros. That's the big goal that they want to go and achieve. Insert your Dragon Ball Z meme here. And as I am recording this, they only got 40 days to go, so you have up till August 15th in order to go and pledge. But what are some of the rewards that you would get in return? Well, there isn't necessarily a whole lot, but it says here, to read some of the rewards, if you pledge 5 euros, then you would get a thank you email. A pledge for 20 euros would actually give you a thank you in the credits. Going 50 euros would actually go and get you not just a digital download of the documentary, but also you would also get an exclusive stream to Dingo Studios where you can actually talk to one of the people behind Dingo Pictures. Then if you pledge 100 euros, then you would actually go and get an exclusive Yi t-shirt, and if you would go and make the biggest pledge, which is 199 euros or more, then you would actually go and get an original poster or an original print of the backgrounds that were made for the Dingo Pictures films. And of course, like, you would get like it would accumulate and stuff like that. And apparently, according to these rewards, it looks like they are promising that this documentary would probably be done somewhere around June and September of next year. That's what they are hoping for, at least. So that's pretty much the big thing that they are showcasing so far. And one thing that I will comment right now is that it doesn't seem like it's going to be like this massive documentary, or like this massive big budget, like this won't be this big budgeted documentary that would be in the leagues of something like, you know, like what we have seen so far with Clay Dream or with Hand Drawn. This does look like this might be in the levels with what we have seen with the YouTubers that did review Dingo Pictures, something in the leagues of like Phaelus or Kid Icarus or like some of those guys. And like that's not an insult, by the way. I mean, like those guys are like great content creators and they do make good quality videos. So this could actually turn out to be good quality as well. And if we are going to be giving them 9,001 euros, then they probably, like, hopefully they will have like a pretty solid budget and they will have the right equipment in order to properly go and actually create this documentary. So following from there, I will say, however, that this does have my interests. I am not gonna lie, this actually does look a bit intriguing with the idea of what they want to do with Dingo Pictures, because yeah, you know, it is such a massive oddball piece of animation history, and sometimes you want to know like how these things ended up getting made, or like especially like when you do think of those mockbusters, not just from like Dingo Pictures, but also from you know, from stuff like Video Brinquedo, for example. You know, like you think about Video Brinquedo, how did those things get made? How would they even get away with creating these absolutely ridiculous and cheap-looking mockbusters? You know, and that's what I am actually intrigued. And honestly, would I be down to actually see this? Yeah, I actually would. Now, would I go and actually back this project? Well, honestly, I think I'd try it out, actually. Like, after this episode, I'm gonna go and actually do a pledge, actually. Not a major pledge. Honestly, I'm just gonna go with the, for me personally, I think I'm gonna go with the 20 euros or more with the thank you credit. But, with this, honestly, I would be intrigued to actually see it. And yeah, I would do the pledge, because they say that worst case scenario, then honestly, well, I could get my money back, because this is an all or nothing kind of deal. It says here this project will only be funded if it reaches its goals. So like, honestly, it's a situation where you don't really have that much to lose if you go and pledge it, because if it gets, if it gets funded, then awesome. You can actually go and make your, the documentary will be made. If not, well, then you can get your money back. So honestly, this does seem intriguing, and I thought I would go and bring this up onto the podcast, because again, this is such an intriguing idea, and yeah, I would love to learn more about the making of Dingo Pictures, and where like the origins of like the Yi meme, and like just the ideas. It's like, why would you go and actually make these blatant ripoffs? Like, why would you go and like continuously recycle the, it's like, or especially, it's like, what's your animation background, or do you even have an animation background if you are gonna make stuff like this, that you end up with stuff like that, and you would end up with like, these classic moments like with the Land Before Time ripoff, or especially, or one of my favorites is it's the Lion King ripoff. Oh my god, I remember I've actually done a few of those Dingo Pictures for Animat Watches. I've done like, I've done a few, like I did the Lion King ripoff, I did the Land Before Time ripoff, and I even did their Anastasia ripoff, which is honestly oh my god, that one is funny. To this day, I'm not joking, I actually do quote that from time to time. Like, sometimes I just go in my computer, and when something goes well, I'm like, ha 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 ha, yes! Or like, oh my god, one of my favorites, I would say, is their Lion King ripoff. The Lion King ripoff is honestly so hilarious. That's the one where you actually do get the immortal line of, "The diamonds, my god!" Oh my god. And especially you have like the whole relationship with the Simba ripoff, where he has this weird butt nose, and like teaming up with the panther, which apparently like, oh, it's like, hey, how about we be friends? I don't know, I think we should be enemies. And that's an actual line in that freaking Lion King ripoff, which it has so many names now. It's like Lion and the King, or like some people are calling it like a Lion King sequel, or what is it, Lion and King, whatever. But you get what I mean. It's so stupid, honestly. Honestly, they are fun to watch, but like in a really stupid way. They're so fun to riff. They're so fun to make fun of. It's just, honestly, like, there is this terrible charm in its own way, where it's just enjoyable to see the pure awfulness of it. And yeah, like, honestly, I would love to learn about the process of how this is made. I would love to know about where they even got this idea to even make Dingo Pictures in the first place. So yeah, honestly, I would actually be down to learn more about Dingo Pictures and to see a whole documentary made about them. Like, if they could pull it off, then yeah, I'll be down to see it. So with that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about a Dingo Pictures documentary? Would you go and support this project on Kickstarter? Do you think it's a good idea? Would you like to learn more about the making of these movies? Or would you rather give this a pass? Let me know what you think now. Let's see now. I'm actually surprised that they're making a Dingo Pictures documentary. They are like the worst animation studio of all time. I want to see what it's like. I remember the Yi meme. They copied Lion King, Aladdin, and especially The Land Before Time. It just looks so cheap and disgusting. We will finally know how these pieces of crap make even the Emoji Movie, make it look like Toy Story in comparison. Yee. Oh yeah, especially, like, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, they're terrible. They're so bad, but that's what makes them so interesting. And you want it, like, and you know, that's why, honestly, I love to do these videos about the making. You know, that's why I love to learn about the history, about the making of these really bad movies, you know, like what I did before with stuff like Escape from Planet Earth or the Emoji Movie or Food Fight and stuff like that. You want to learn, why is it that they came out so bad? How could they turn out a product that is this terrible? How could that thing just come to be? And I would definitely love to see that with Dingo Pictures. Let's see now. Having seen many reviews of the movies based on Dingo Pictures, it would be quite fascinating to learn a lot more about probably the most infamous mockbuster studio, like their origins, like how they were able to get away with making their movies. I might just want to make a pledge after this review. Exactly, man. Again, I'm not being sponsored. I just want to point this out because it just seems so fascinating. I mean, you guys know me. I love documentaries, especially about animation. So a documentary on something like Dingo Pictures, yeah, I'd be down with it. I'd be down to see what this is. This definitely looks interesting, considering how Dingo Pictures has become infamous for creating these animated ripoffs, and I just want to see how these movies become hilariously bad and so stupid. And hopefully this won't be another Butch Hartman Oaxis scam, but overall, I'm interested. This better not be, but I honestly, I'll put my trust that hopefully this person is telling the truth, that they do know the people who made Dingo Pictures and that this documentary will be made. But then again, you would have to be as terrible of a human being as Butch Hartman to really sink that low. Let's see now. A documentary about the infamous studio? Sign me up. Also, hi Phaelus. I do love to support crowdfunded works. Heck, I pledged Kickstarter like an indie RPG and other documentaries about first-person shooters. And since you said, "What, 9,000? There's no way it can be right." On a side note, I've been trying to find where to watch Hand Drawn, but I don't know where. Do you know where to watch Hand Drawn and other indie documentaries online, Animat? Okay, so I just want to say right now, so far with Clay Dream, technically it's being released right now, but only in festivals. And Hand Drawn is not officially done yet. It's not officially released. It is still in production. So you still gotta wait on that one. But hopefully it shouldn't be too long for Clay Dream to have like an official release or more of a public release, that maybe one day Mark will have it be released like on some kind of streaming service or something like that, or like put it up on like, that would be awesome if he can have a deal with like Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that. I don't know. Like, I would love to see the opportunity for Clay Dream to actually be shown to the public. Like, that would actually be amazing. Let's see now. What else? I think, honestly, I'll read one more comment before we go. Let's see. Or, actually, two. Yeah, I'm gonna read two. Oh, no, wait. No. Oh, okay, never mind. One more. One more to go. To quote Rick Mitchell, "Has the world gone mad? This documentary looks like a student film, but this needs to be in theaters. I might actually back this project after the cast. I'm pretty intrigued to watch this guy's documentary. After all, if SaberSpark can do a good video essay on it, despite his breakdown, this guy is more than worthy, especially for a documentary. But, by the way, I like your Twitter icon. Yeah, I know, I decided just for the fun of it, just to change up my my social media icon and just go with an Animat version of Cousin It from the Addams Family. So, you know what? Why not? Especially with the new Addams Family 2 posters where we see Cousin It wearing a fedora. How could I say no to that opportunity? And with that said, I think that should do it with this episode of Animat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. What a beautiful and fun-filled episode that we've had, and I would just like to say thank you all so much for joining me on this episode, and hopefully next week we will have more fun times and we will listen to more fun and crazy stories in the future. So with that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes!